On. Hello, everybody. We're just going to give this another minute or two just so we can get everybody connected that's in the waiting room. All right, looks like gang's all here. So good afternoon, everybody. My name is Kim Johnson, and I work in the office of the ODU Alumni Association. So on behalf of the Alumni Association, the Hampton Roads Alliance, the ODU Strome Entrepreneurial Center, and ODU's Institute for Innovation and Entrepreneurship, thank you for joining us today. Everybody's lines have been muted, but please feel free at any point to include your questions in the chat feature. We have allotted time during the presentation as well as at the end so that we can get to those questions. And so for your convenience, this event is also being recorded, and we will be putting it on the ODU Alumni Association website afterwards. If you would like to see that, I'll also include it in the post-event summary that will go out to everybody as well. And as a little bit of extra fun, please stick around towards the end of the event because we will be randomly pulling 3 winners for our raffle prizes. And so at this time, I would like to introduce everybody to Nancy Grden, who will be our event moderator today. So over to you, Nancy.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Kim. And good afternoon, everybody. I'd like to have a special welcome to all the ODU alumni on the call, all the community reps. And I'm really, really excited to be here with our partners from the Alliance for a really very exciting and informative program. Maybe just a couple words about myself and why I'm so excited to actually be moderating this session. I actually have, I always say I had the most fun job at Old Dominion. I love running the Institute for Innovation and Entrepreneurship. And maybe you could advance the slide if you don't mind, Kim. There's
Yep, I'm working on pulling that up.
Okay. So what we do, it's very exciting. We actually work both on the campus, so students, faculty, staff, alums, but also the community on all things entrepreneurial. So if you're interested in learning about entrepreneurship, you're curious about putting together a company, growing a company, any of those types of things, we are here. Or if you want to partner with our resources that we have at Old Dominion, many of the things we can do is provide that bridge. So as you'll see on the next slide, these are just a couple of the programs. We have the Strome Entrepreneurial Center on the campus. We partner with the City of Norfolk downtown. We have 2 locations there. We've got a store called the Monarch Way for entrepreneurs, which is really exciting. And we also have a number of programs working with our veterans, women, rural development, and open seas that are all sort of various components of entrepreneurship that relate to our region. Next slide. Two quick initiatives that I would like to just touch on, and then we'll get to our program. Our Strome College of Business actually has a very exciting program called Open for Business. And it is open right now. It is a marvelous way for businesses, small businesses and not-for-profits, to take advantage of working with Old Dominion University students and faculty on very specific problems and opportunities that your company or your organization has. So we have really started this initiative as a result of what's happening with the COVID situation and the pandemic. So just wanted to highlight that. It is open. It is a free resource, and we have already had a number of companies sign up. And the final thing I will mention, which is actually a great segue into our discussion here today with the Alliance, is ODU, but certainly many other organizations in the region are all coming together to form a collaborative that's looking at maritime. Obviously, we all know this picture, right? We've got water around us. We have so many assets and opportunities in our region. And so one of the exciting things that Old Dominion has been working on, in addition with the Alliance, is how can we really imagine and take these assets and really grow them for the benefit of the full region. So you're going to hear a little bit more about this and other initiatives, you know, as we get into the program. So before we get started, we would like to do a really quick poll question. And it is poll question number 1. And hopefully you all can see it, which is, what industry do you think of when you think of Hampton Roads? So please go ahead and check. This is just a little Rorschach into the region, if you will, to see what people are thinking. So just take a moment and submit your answers. We'll take a little quick poll. And then just to set this up, we're going to do a question at the end about some future activities. So let's just see what we get here first. Waiting for some submissions. So Kim, are you seeing these?
I am.
Cool.
So right now it looks like military is the highest with 55%. And then we've got shipbuilding and repair at 27%. And then third is tourism at 13%.
Okay. And can people keep voting? Can they keep doing that, or how?
Yes,
how do you...
we'll keep it open for maybe another like 30 seconds.
So while we're doing that, I'd like to actually transition now over to the topic at hand, growing the 757. And it is really exciting for me to be the moderator for this panel. We are going to talk today with several of the leaders of the Hampton Road Economic Development Alliance. The new name is the Alliance. And many of you may know them. They have been an organization that's been here, but I'm here to tell you they have really begun some exciting new initiatives, not only for their organization, but for our region. It is literally the leading economic development organization here in our region. It actually includes representation from 11 of our localities, which, as many of you know, is very exciting for our region. Well over 70 private sector partners, and of course, academia. And the whole idea is to come together as an organization across all of our boundaries and think about the future and growth of our region. I'd like to actually recognize Doug Smith. He is the CEO, current CEO, and of the organization. And under his leadership, quite a lot is happening real time right now, and a lot has happened even during these many, many months of the pandemic. So I really want to have a shout out to him and thank him for all of his leadership. So today, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about 3 areas of the Alliance that are directly relevant to what's happening in our region. And we're going to hear from 3 staff members. I'm going to introduce them individually, but the 3 you will hear from are Jillian Goodwin, Nicole Riff, and Steve Harrison. So to start, I am going to begin with Jillian. Jillian Goodwin is the Director of Marketing and Communications for the Alliance. And I'm proud to say she's an ODU alum, class of 15. She started as an intern, which is really exciting. They hired her as a coordinator, and she was promoted in 2017 to actually be in her current position as director. So kudos to you, and that's really exciting to see one of our alums here at the Alliance. She has a big job. She is responsible for all of the marketing and communications strategy and implementation that includes everything from the media, the blogs, the website, the marketing collateral, and more. She's also responsible for the brand strategy and identity with all of the publications and activities, and she's the primary contact for media relations. Above all, she considers herself as a Hampton Roads native and loves the 757, so I can't think of a better person to be marketing director for the Alliance. So with that, Jillian, I am going to turn it over to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having us. I'm excited to be here. When ODU first came to us about this event, my entire staff was super excited. We've never done an event like this before, so thank you all for being here. So I have the largest portion of the presentation today, so I'm start off just to talk about, kind of go through what we're going to be going through in my section, which is the changes that Nancy has mentioned. This organization is very different from the one that I started with 5 years ago, and we'll go through some of those different areas that we've grown and adapted. And then my pride and joy, introduce you to the rebrand that we've undergone in the last few months. That includes a new name, a new logo, a lot of new strategies when it comes to social media and multimedia, and then our new website, which is massive and something that it really showcases what this region has to offer in a really exciting way. And then I'll wrap up with talking about what is the 757 and how does that support regional growth. Next slide. So some of the changes for the Alliance, like I said, there's been a lot going on. A lot of this has been going on behind the scenes, but it's coming together in the last couple of months, and we're excited to present this to everyone and show you what we've been working on. The first is that we adapted our mission. So our mission now is to work collaboratively and aggressively to attract, grow, and retain higher wage industry and talent to create a more resilient, inclusive, and diverse region of choice. Some of the ways that we embody that mission is through our services. We have historically focused on business attraction, which is bringing new to market companies to the area to invest. Companies that exist outside of Hampton Roads, we want them to establish locations here. In the last year, we have added a new service area of business retention and expansion, which is helping current businesses that are already located here expand within the region. And the reason we added this to our mission and to our services is that this area of economic development actually represents about 70% of new job creation. We also, in the last couple months, adapted very quickly and adopted almost an entire new service area of business recovery, which is not something we had anticipated having to do. None of us anticipated that with COVID, but it was something the business community needed. So we figured out how to add that and support the businesses in that way. Next slide. So who at the Alliance also has changed a lot. I think at this point, so we have 12 people on staff. At least 50% of them have started within the last 12 to 18 months. Most recently, we added a chief strategy officer, Nicole, who you'll meet in a minute. Our investor relations director is Elisa Kreider, which I have a feeling most of you, if you're in business in Hampton Roads, know her. Former chairwoman for Thrive. She has done incredible in that role, just serving our investors, both public and private. And then if you saw our announcement last week, Matt Smith, who's currently with HRPDC, will actually be joining our staff in August as our first offshore wind business development director. Our governance has changed. We have adopted a new governance model. Our board over the last few years shrank from 70 people to about 30 to now 13, 6 mayors and 7 CEOs and top executives from our private investors. So that board, being so much smaller and more focused, is able to really be an actionable board and really streamline and direct the organization. Partnerships, we have always been a partner with the Hampton Roads Chambers, the workforce boards, the colleges, but we've really invested and put time into strengthening those partnerships over the last year or so. And you'll hear some of the results of that in our business recovery efforts. And funding. So the Alliance is a private-public partnership. We receive about 40% of our funding from our 11 member localities, and then about 60% of our funding comes from private sector. So we did a capital campaign in 2019 that actually increased our private funding by over 300%. So we now have 15 businesses that are investing at $50,000 or higher, which is more than we've ever had. And it's the first time in probably about a decade that we actually have had private funding higher than our public funding. Another change that we had to our funding and just overall structure is that we have a regional master agreement for economic development that was signed by city managers or chief administrative officers in all 11 of our localities. And that does include an increased per capita investment from our localities. And then finally, just before COVID hit, we actually did receive our 501c3 status from the IRS. So now those private investment donations are also tax deductible for our investors. And like I said, most exciting part for me as a communications and a graphic designer is our new visual brand. This new name, logo, website, complete overhaul is really, it's the final piece of the puzzle. It's kind of the icing on the cake that tied all of these changes that, like I said, they were going on behind the scenes, brought it all together, and really allows us to tell the story of the Alliance and then also of Hampton Roads. So this process is actually about 15 months in the making. We initially started the rebrand in early 2019. We postponed it when the regional branding initiative was started last summer by the Hampton Roads Chamber. We felt that we needed to see the results of that and figure out what direction the regional brand was going before we decided where we were going. And then we were actually scheduled to launch our rebrand the first week of April 2020. Certainly that did not happen. We postponed that due to COVID, focused on business recovery for about 6 weeks exclusively, and then went ahead and launched our brand at the end of May. So, formerly, we are HRADA, Harita, however you wanted to pronounce that. Here's our old logo. We are not HRADA anymore, and we will politely ask you not to say that anymore. So we are, I'm going to go to our new slide, the Hampton Roads Alliance, or the Alliance for short. So this is our new logo. A few things about this logo. So in kind of deciding, a logo represents your organization. And one of the things that across the board for us, and it came out of the research from the Regional Branding Initiative, is water. Water is something that really both sustains our economy and our culture here. Tourism, the military, and the port are all circled around the water in our region. We've got 3,000 miles of coastline. And then our quality of life. You ask anyone, like, what do they love about living here? And probably half of them are going to have something related to the beaches or the rivers or the sports and just outdoor activities that all focus around the water. So that was really important to us. Another element of our new logo is our tagline. So growing the 757, growing Virginia. Growing the 757, that is our cultural reference, and we'll talk more about the 757 in a little bit. Growing Virginia, it helps give that geographical reference of we are in the state of Virginia, for someone who doesn't know where Hampton Roads is. And then it also gives us the association with the state of Virginia, which state of Virginia was the top state for business by CNBC in 2019. So by associating ourselves with this state that already has a reputation for being just excelling in business, we're kind of riding the curtails of that unapologetically. So those are a few of the elements of the logo that were really important to us. So another thing that we've done in the last couple of months, in the last 6 months specifically, is really embraced best practices for using social media. Obviously, we redid all of our visuals on the profiles that launched with our new website. We have seen a 37% increase in our LinkedIn followers and 24% increase in Facebook likes in the last 6 months, and over 70,000 impressions on both of those sites from our posts.
Can you still see that? Sorry.
Yeah, can you go back to full screen?
Yep. If you want to keep going, I will figure this out.
So what we use our social media for, obviously sharing about our activities, our initiatives. We also like to be, when I first started as an intern, I was told you are a cheerleader for Hampton Roads. So if you see good news coming out from a locality, from a private business, we want to share that. We want to amplify that story. So we share a lot of just news stories that come out, make sure that everyone kind of gets to see them. We also share from our partners. So we've shared about the Open for Business program for ODU. Just anything that's going on that we think other people in the community need to know is happening, we like to post about on our social media. There we go.
There we go, yeah.
So like I said, we had a new city manager in the city of Virginia Beach. Dominion had their new turbines. These two on the left are some of the blogs that came out of our 757 recovery website. Just all good stuff. If you're not following us, go ahead and do that now. You can go ahead and go 2 more slides. So another aspect that we've dived headfirst into in the last few months is video. We had not been utilizing video very much at all. We are now doing a lot of videos. We actually just published a series of 8 episodes of a business recovery series. We also used video to help launch our new brand. So these 2 on the left are on our website, on our social media. You can check them out. That kind of tells what we've been working on and the story that came about. One thing that we did not expect, but we adapted well, is the video, the one in the middle, the actual brand launch video, that filmed and was finished editing 2 days before the state of Virginia announced a state of emergency for COVID. So we had this awesome video. We have Mary Bunting of Hampton, Robert Moore of Portsmouth, Doug, all speaking in this video talking about the changes at the Alliance. And we were excited to share it, and then realized it talks nothing about COVID. And it's a little tone deaf to launch a brand in the middle of a global pandemic without recognizing that. So in a matter of about 36 hours, we filmed and edited a new video from Doug. He filmed it from his house, talking about how the brand, we're excited about this. It's something we've been working on for a long time, but simultaneously we're committed to business recovery and to supporting our community through this time, while also being excited about our new launch. So definitely, we're not going to show those videos on Zoom because I'm sure it'll lag. So check out our Facebook page if you want to see those.
Jillian, if I can, we've had one question. You may get to this, but we'd like to know the website also where people should go.
Yes, so it is hamptonroadsalliance.com. And that's, well, Kim we're going to show some screenshots, but cool. That's the very next part of my conversation. Great. So that's awesome. It was a complete rebuild, like whole new system. We started every page from scratch. It's a fully responsive website, and we use a lot of interactive features and hovers to really engage our readers and, like I said, tell the story of Hampton Roads. We have a lot of really great photography that's been shared with us from our localities, and we use a lot of that on the website. We also have a translation software that will translate it into 90 different languages. So it's fully inclusive of international companies or even ESL speakers here in the region. This was also a collaborative effort. We formed a task force and included 5 of our favorite marketing professionals from the localities, and I saw a few of them are actually on this call, so that's awesome. Thank you, Jessica and Mallory, and if I missed you, I apologize. But they were really great. For about 2 weeks prior to our public launch, they were reviewing the website alongside of us with our agency to just make it that it's really user-friendly and really telling the story, like I said, as best we could. And then post-launch, we've had several organizations or companies reach out to us and say, hey, this is great, but you're missing this part of the story, or you're missing this information on such and such page. And we welcome that. So if you are looking at the website and you think that there's a page that we have more to talk about, please reach out to me, Jay Goodwin at 757alliance.com. I would love to chat with you and see how we can continue to improve this website, because it will be an ongoing process. So are we able to get the PowerPoint back up?
I'm having some technical difficulties. I apologize. It should be up in the next, I'd say, 1 minute.
Okay.
So
any other
questions? While we're waiting, maybe a question, a couple of interesting. How do you plan to measure the impact? There's some thinking about the measurement. Obviously, that's very important as well.
Of the new website itself?
The whole campaign or pieces of the campaign, yes.
So we use Google Analytics. We are in the process of, we have an agency that we work with on PR that does a really great job of helping us gauge the impressions and the reach of all of our marketing efforts. So when there's press releases or there's stories about Hampton Roads, they can help us talk about who is seeing that. And then I don't want to, as far as like the actual job attraction and job creation, I'm going to pitch that one to Steve to talk about. I know it's part of his slides. And then that's also part of what Nicole's role as Chief Strategy Officer, one of our new staff members, is to track how we have job goals and we have numbers that we want to hit. So what are we doing to get there and how are we measuring all of that?
Great.
All right, getting us caught up.
Okay. All right. So I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail, but because it's much better if you're just on the website checking it out yourself. But here's our homepage. We went back and forth on whether or not this first photo was going to be of the military or not. That's a slider that also shows the port. It shows the beaches, and it shows our location. But ultimately, the military here is something that sets us apart from a lot of regions. It's something that not many people can claim that they, actually only 2 people can claim that they create nuclear aircraft carriers. So that's important to us. And we think that we can work alongside the military to really utilize those assets to grow the entire region. Next slide. So obviously we have an About Us page. Our localities, like I said, we represent 11 localities in the region. And we do get a lot of questions about sometimes like, why don't you represent the whole region? It is an opt-in membership. So these 11 localities have committed to working with us and they fund the Alliance through that commitment. So we would welcome the other 6 localities to join us if they'd like to. And we do work along, we have 3 or 4 of the localities that are not members with us that do sit on our regional economic development team. So we do work collaboratively with the entire region, but when it comes to our actual members, it's 11. And then obviously Regional Partners and Resources is a page that we direct a lot of people to because we can't do this by ourselves. We have a lot of partners and we all understand that we have different strengths and we don't have to duplicate efforts to grow this area. Next slide. Doing business in Hampton Roads. This is kind of the nitty gritty of our assets. It's education, it's the military, it's international business, workforce, all those fun facts and figures that help sell this area. Key industries, Nicole's going to talk about a little bit more, but we do have 5 key industries: advanced manufacturing, food and beverage processing, distribution and logistics, business and shared services, and then information technology. And then of advanced manufacturing, we have 2 sub-industries, maritime and aerospace. So you can get all the industry information there. Next page. Reports and resources. These are some of the actually more sought after pages. It's kind of the hard facts. So we've got property search. You can find available properties, maps, largest employer reports, different stuff like that. And then our last section, Life in the 757. So this is our quality of life section of the website. And this is something that took a major overhaul with the new web build. This used to be a single page on the old website. And it had like no photos on it, which is a huge missed opportunity. As we were building this new website, we realized quality of life here is one of our greatest assets. It's something that, again, not many places can tout the kind of lifestyle that we can offer. So really put a lot of effort into kind of bringing all of these different awesome aspects of the region, whether it's sports, music, history, education, healthcare, bring it all into one place, utilizing a lot of photos. Like I said, our localities are great about getting us creative assets, which is nice because I don't have the time to go take photos in 11 different cities. And then a lot of links. So you can not just hear about something, but if you want to, do you want the link for the Mariners Museum, for Hampton Harbor Park? Like you can get to all of that from our quality of life section. And we did call it Life in the 757, which, again, what is the 757? So we'll jump into that because I'm sure that's on a few of your all's minds. So what is the 757 and how does it support regional growth? All right, so the 757, backtrack a little bit in that last year, the Hampton Roads Chamber spearheaded the Regional Branding Initiative. And there's 7 things that you need to know about this branding initiative. The first is that the assignment was to advance the Hampton Roads market. It was not to rename the region. Thousands of people participated in this effort. There was over 2,000 survey responses, more than a dozen different surveys over a 9-month period. So this was not done in haste. There was a lot of research that went into this initiative. Our region is facing a very big challenge. It is, we'll get to that in a second. So it's a big challenge and we have never marketed ourselves as a unified region. Right now, what we need is to build pride and we need to unify ourselves as a region before we can go any farther than that. The next thing is that momentum is building and this initiative is a real initiative and we'll get to kind of where we are with it in just a second. So next slide. All right, so as we said, the assignment. The assignment was to understand Hampton Roads' current brand identity, the brand awareness, perceptions, and misperceptions about Hampton Roads. And then to develop recommendations for marketing the region, not naming the region. But naming implications, communication, that all feeds into this initiative. The challenge is that Hampton Roads is behind other regions and the battle for qualified talent is going to continue to heat up. So after all this research came back, the recommendation is that before we can market ourselves to the outside world, and consider a new official name, we have to become more of a unified region. So we designed and launched a regional 757 pride building campaign, one that will unify us, celebrate us, and spark everyone's emotional connection to this region. So the 757 is not a new name. It is a unifier for all of those within the region. So the example I like to give is that Richmond is still Richmond, but RVA is also synonymous with Richmond. So Hampton Roads, Coastal Virginia, and Tidewater are all still a part of our identity, but all 3 of those are a part of the 757. So 757 is a region that you can be proud of. The narrative that we don't collaborate anymore is not true. Hopefully you see that from a lot of the examples I just gave within just our own organization, but our counterparts are doing just as much collaborative work as we are. So we have a lot of assets and a lot of potential here. And the model for collaboration is woven throughout everything that we're doing and everything our partners are doing right now. And it is working. We're building momentum to achieve the job growth that we want and to help the 757 reach its maximum potential. So where are we now? Like I said, momentum is building. So this launched in January. And so far we've had hundreds of examples online and social media and throughout the community of 757. A big part of that is spearheaded by the 757 Proud social media profiles, which are led by young professionals who served on the Branding Initiative Committee. Elisa Kreider is one of them, along with Josh Schulman. They've done a great job. This social media page, they really engage with the community, and you can see from the sentiment that it was very negative when it first came out, and the media did not do a great job of helping us tell the story initially, but that's changing, and people are understanding what the 757 is now. Next slide. These are just a couple examples of how it's being used. So Virginia Natural Gas has used it on the billboard. There's signs, there's new beers coming out. The events are starting to use it. Nauticus did a $7.57 ticket price, bumper stickers, just a lot of exciting ways to embrace it. And then lastly, 757 Proud plus COVID-19. We did a really fun campaign in that we we had students from Princess Anne High School designed this artwork, and we had it printed onto 200 masks that we gave out to the community. And the response was so positive, and we had so many people asking us for more masks that we actually did a second order, and we had businesses and organizations that collectively ordered 2,200 more masks for the community. So those are just another fun way that we embraced our 757 pride in the realm of COVID.
Great. Well, Jillian, thank you. I know that was quite a lot to cover, but there's a lot happening here. You're talking about the regional campaign as well as the Alliance campaign. And I think this is extremely exciting to see all of this activity, even in these very challenging communication times. So we're in the interest of time, we won't take any more questions at the moment. What we will do is take, obviously, chat questions that apply, and then we'll have a little bit of time at the end. So I would like to, again, thank you very much, Jillian, for all of that overview. And I'd like to now transition to the second of our three speakers. This is Ms. Nicole Riff, and I am thrilled to say she is a new person. We are so happy to have her here in Hampton Roads from Texas. She is not only new here, but she's in a new position, a newly created position of Chief Strategy Officer for the Alliance. And what's exciting about the marketing campaign and all the rebranding is obviously it has to align with the strategy, and that's clearly what Nicole is working on. She brings well over 10 years of great experience in community and economic development at the state, county, and city levels, and she has an undergraduate degree in history and international studies from the University of Wisconsin and a master's degree in urban planning from the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee. She started in March, so quite a challenging time to be here. And her role is really working with Doug to look at major strategic initiatives, not only for growing existing business, as Jillian was saying earlier, but also thinking about strategically expanding and recruiting new business. And there are a number of very exciting initiatives in that regard that I'm going to ask Nicole to speak about next. So over to you, Nicole.
Thanks so much, Nancy. Really glad to be here this afternoon. Thanks, Kim. All right, so, as Jillian mentioned earlier, we do tend to focus on business recruitment and economic development. Traditionally, that really is the focus of a regional economic development group. That is a very important function, and that's something I really focused on a lot when I was in the state of Texas. That being said, here we're focused primarily on 5 key industries, and you can see what those are here. And something I think that's really interesting to think about when you think about target industries is what drives that. And when you look around Hampton Roads, what do you think about? You see the port, you see water. We have a lot of logistics opportunities because of that. Additionally, we have a very diverse and well-educated workforce, so that drives a lot of the types of projects that we have here in Hampton Roads. And to be honest, Nancy mentioned I moved here at the beginning of March, and that's a big reason that I moved to the Hampton Roads region. I am 757 proud, and I have been since before I even got here. I think that there are a lot of different assets that we're able to really promote when we're talking to companies outside the Hampton Roads region. I think this is an area that's very much under the radar, and we're really looking at focusing on elevating the profile and elevating the awareness of this region. That being said, we continue to focus on business recruitment. That will always be important, but the Alliance really has thought about other ways in which we can add value to the region. And Kim, if you don't mind going to the next slide, please. We, over the last year or so, have shifted to focusing on additional priorities here in the region. And Jillian had mentioned that we've diversified into business retention and expansion functions. And I would say, based on my, 10 or 12 years of experience in economic development, that is a unique function for a regional economic development group to focus on. Traditionally, that's something that more local economic development groups, cities, counties may really have a very focused initiative on that. But at a regional level, we see a lot of value to be added in BRE, which is what we call it, by looking at, regional trends. So for instance, different localities across Hampton Roads may be having conversations with different companies in the same industry, and they may all be facing the same types of issues when it comes to workforce training that they need, or, you know, particular transportation or infrastructure needs that they may all have. And the only way to find that out is by all of us talking together. So, you know, our organization here has really tried to take the lead in gathering a lot of that information. We're building out tools to help with that regional cooperation. And that's something that, you know, stay tuned over the years to come, because we'll be publishing a lot of great information, I think, that will help all of our partner organizations to develop strategies to advance economic development here in response to some of those trends that we identify. In addition to that, you know, we also are continuously looking at diversifying our industries here. So we have those 5 target industries that we've traditionally been focused on. Those are very important and will continue to be important. But, you know, when you have situations like the 2009 recession, federal funding being pulled during sequestration, and now the COVID pandemic, you really want to ensure that your economy is diverse so that people have job opportunities and businesses are able to succeed even when there are unforeseen challenges that happen. And so while the region wants to diversify into new industry, we also want to build upon the existing industry in that industry diversification. And what I'll probably talk to you about for the rest of my time here will be offshore wind, which is something that we really think hits all of these indicators here. It's a BRE opportunity for our existing business. It's a business recruitment opportunity to bring new investment into the region. And it's something that we really think will help to build our economy further and provide more opportunities here in the region. So those of you that have been reading the news lately hopefully have seen all the exciting announcements coming from Dominion Energy and their project that they're implementing here off the coast of Virginia Beach. So offshore wind is really a new industry to the United States as a whole. This is a very well-founded industry in Europe, but here it's new. Rhode Island has a small project, but beyond that, we are now going to be the second project that will exist in the entire United States. There's $100 billion of industry potential here. So that's, you know, building the turbines, the workforce that's going to be needed for maintaining all of these projects. It's really exciting. There are a lot of different components that go into it. And we really believe, because of some action that the state government has taken here, that we're positioned to take advantage of this and be the hub for offshore wind serving the entire East Coast, which is really exciting. So the Virginia Clean Economy Act, which the legislature passed this year and was signed by Governor Northam this year, has a target goal of 100% clean energy by 2030. So that's leading to utility providers having to start implementing some significant clean energy projects. And so Dominion Energy, they've taken the lead on this, and they actually are already currently developing a project, their pilot project, and then will, in addition to that, be building out a commercial project after that. So you can see here just some potential growth indicators for the offshore wind industry, and this is for the entire East Coast. So we've got about 20 to 30 gigawatts in the pipeline through 2030, and that could lead to up to $25 billion in economic impact. It's just astonishing, the opportunities there. Next slide, please. So you can see here a map. These are all of the different projects that are in the pipeline along the East Coast. And you'll see the Dominion Energy project in blue on the southern end of that map, and then Avangrid Renewables, which is the Kitty Hawk project in North Carolina. Both of those are projects that we are in constant contact with, talking about potential opportunities, ways in which we can help serve the economic opportunities there. But in addition to that, all of the projects that you're seeing to the north of Virginia, off the coast of Maryland, Delaware, New Jersey, and farther north, those are projects that we think we can serve as well. And I'll talk a little bit later about why we think we're uniquely positioned in that way. Next slide, please. So again, coming back to the Dominion Energy project, it is amazing that this is happening. So these two turbines, this is an actual photo of the actual turbines that were just installed at the end of June. These are the first turbines in federal waters in the United States. So this is a game changer here. This really puts us ahead of anybody in the United States when it comes to offshore wind. These are two 6-megawatt turbines, and they will end up generating enough power for 3,000 homes, which is amazing. And we get a lot of questions of, well, can I see the turbines, right? Because you don't want to disrupt the beautiful view shed from Virginia Beach, and you cannot see turbines from the beach. They're 25 miles offshore. We know a number of people that actually have taken the boat trip out there to see them, and it is a long trip, couple hours just to get out there to see the turbines, but very exciting. And this actually will set the stage for Dominion's commercial project, which will ultimately have about 2.6 gigawatts of energy, and that construction will start in 2024. Next slide, please. So coming back to some of our advantages for offshore wind, you know, we talked a little bit earlier about port infrastructure here. And I'll say one of the main reasons that I was very interested in moving out here and doing economic development for this region is our port system in Hampton Roads. You know, coming from Texas, there were a lot of great port facilities along the Gulf Coast, but they're all run by different entities. So they compete with each other for business. So something really unique about Hampton Roads is that all of the port infrastructure in the entire state is run by the same entity. So that means that all of these different facilities can be coordinated. PMT, for instance, in Portsmouth, that is now going to be focused on being an area that serves offshore wind and can have development and manufacturing targeted toward offshore wind. And then they realigned some of their other facilities so that they can accommodate that at PMT. So we've got that, a lot of waterfront land here. We talked earlier about the maritime industry, and the maritime workforce really has a lot of synergy with the skills that are required for offshore wind. So that's something that we think really is unique here. And then something else that I found fascinating in learning about offshore wind is that we have no overhead bridge restrictions here. Mm-hmm. And basically what that means is you can have a manufacturing facility somewhere along the water in this region. And if you have to stand up an entire huge turbine that's the height of a skyscraper, you don't have to worry about having bridges being lifted or moved or having the ability to get through to open waters. You just have that immediate access, which is very unique to Virginia. I mentioned the progressive energy policy. Jillian talked earlier about our pro-business climate. And then you saw on that map that we showed that we do have that strategic mid-Atlantic location here. We are really working closely with all of our key partners at the state, regional, and local level on this initiative. The Department of Mines, Minerals, and Energy is the lead state organization for offshore wind. So all things offshore wind, they are the head organization. But you'll see here, you know, all these different groups that we're working closely with and having constant conversations with to ensure that we're aligned in our messaging and our marketing for these particular projects. And then my last slide here, next slide, please. And then this just gives you a brief overview of what we as the Alliance are leading. So, you know, being an economic development organization, we're really uniquely positioned to take the lead on that supply chain development activity. And we had the good fortune of receiving a $530,000 grant from Go Virginia in order to help us stand up this effort. It's really exciting. So we've had the ability to hire 2 staff that all they're going to do all day, every day is think about offshore wind, which is really exciting. Matt Smith, you'll see here in the picture, he's out visiting the CVOW turbines, which is really cool. He'll start with us in the middle of August. He's coming from HRPDC, very familiar with the region. And then we'll be hiring someone also to be focused more on developing marketing materials and supporting those types of efforts within the supply chain development program. And I mentioned earlier, you know, this is a really exciting opportunity both for existing business here and for business recruitment. So we'll be working with our local business community to identify opportunities for them to become part of the supply chain, while also doing business recruitment efforts. And I mentioned earlier that Europe is really where this industry is focused. And so we actually have founded a European Hampton Roads offshore wind office, which is very cool, that will be representing us, and they will in theory be able to have meetings in person this fall, and, you know, following that when we're unable to travel to Europe right now. And then just the end here, you know, we'll be working on doing a lot of research and developing marketing materials, identifying sites and promoting them, and then attending, in theory, in-person trade shows and marketing missions to talk to companies to help them look at investing here in Hampton Roads. So we really think this is a unique opportunity. Definitely keep an eye out. If you have friends that are, you know, have small businesses that you think might be interested in this, definitely send them our way. We definitely want this to be an opportunity for all of our region to grow. Thanks, Nancy.
Great, Nicole. That was awesome. And there are a number of questions, but I will just answer and maybe connect a couple dots here quickly, and then move on to our final speaker. There's obviously quite a lot of synergy and overlap with maritime as we previously thought of it, offshore wind, and the fact that we have the presence of the Navy. And I can tell you that was one of the reasons for forming this collaborative, was to make sure that all of these advocates and audiences were collaborating and working together. So it's a great question. And we wanted to avoid, we want to have 1 + 1 = 3, like we always say, not 1 + 1 is -5. So the coordination is extremely, extremely important. I would like to turn, in the interest of time, to the third speaker, which is, again, another very exciting initiative of the Alliance, and I'd like to introduce Mr. Steve Harrison. He is the VP of Business Intelligence for the Alliance. He too is a Hampton Roads native and has quite a bit of experience in economic development. Two-time graduate from William and Mary with a bachelor's in government and a master's in public policy. He joined the Alliance about a year ago, June of 19. And in his role, he really leads and is a central source of data for the region and local business environment. They look at a wide variety of information, everything from demographics, real estate. They look at prospect data and expansion. So he is literally a wealth of information. And I would like to turn it over to Steve to talk about the very exciting Unfolding Framework Initiative. So Steve, over to you.
Thank you so much, Nancy, and thank you all very much for tuning in and letting us share a little bit about the Alliance and about some of the really exciting efforts that are going on in the region. Like Nancy mentioned, I wanted to briefly explain sort of what my title and what my department represents. You know, a lot of times you hear economic development and you might initially think, what is economic development? And hopefully, you know, these first two presenters, my colleagues, have given you some insight into that. And so then the other question that I also get is, what is business intelligence? And essentially, business intelligence is research. If you're a company executive, if you're a site selection consultant, basically what you want to know is, what is the business environment like in a location where I may expand my company or I may move my company? And so my team in business intelligence works with our business development partners, Amy Parkhurst and Amy Jordan, both of whom are on the call as well, to look up information about the availability of property in Hampton Roads. We look at our workforce. ODU is a huge asset for the workforce, and so we try to promote the benefits of graduating students that are coming out of universities just like ODU. We talk about the cost and the quality of our business environment from a tax perspective. And then we talk about the regulatory climate. As Jillian mentioned, Virginia is often listed as one of the best states for business. So our job really is to compile all the information that someone would need to know about the business environment in Hampton Roads and in Virginia, and to share that with prospects, with our existing industries, and with our colleagues at the local and the state level. And next slide, please. You've seen three of us on today's call, but we do have a wonderful team that's more than just me. My team includes Jonathan Holman, who does amazing work on the research side of things as well. And then we have Sanidia Cranston and Kirsten Chandler, who are interning with us this summer. Sanidia is an ODU intern who's been with us since last fall. So we're thrilled to have her. And I think it's really an exciting time for this type of work. We use a variety of tools. These are just some examples to pull information from real estate, to demographics, to workforce information, we get basically any kind of question you can ask, we try to answer it for you. So whether it's, you know, where do you send trash? We get questions like that, people that are looking for recyclables, to, you know, what is the cost of hiring a computer technician? So we use these things and try to really tell that story in a powerful way. Next slide, please. And so another thing that we do is look at the economic conditions that we're facing. And so pre-COVID, we used to say, and I guess we still say, I think maybe worldwide now, that the trend is not our friend at the moment. So if you look at the forecasts for job growth in Hampton Roads over the next decade, our pre-COVID job growth trajectory was downward. And that's certainly not something you'd like to see. That's certainly not something that we think fits the Hampton Roads story. We feel that, you know, even though the diversification away from defense and things are vital, that we feel we can add more jobs in more of these target industries to overcome this type of a decline. And next slide. You'll see that we also are not really living up to where we believe we should be in regard to our peer communities, which are metro areas that have between 1 and 4 million people. We're 28th pre-COVID as far as our anticipated growth rate of jobs over the next decade. We believe, based on some work we did with IBM and a study about the creation of new jobs over the next decade, that we should be 13th. And so we have created a variety of industry targets and a variety of initiatives at the Alliance in order to try to get to that 13th position. We also in February, finalized our job growth projections for the next 10 years if we were to sort of do everything the way we intended to do traditionally with all of our marketing efforts and everything like that, and to create 13,000 new jobs from the Alliance itself. And we said that these growth rates and these things would be perfect barring something unexpected. And then something unexpected happened. And so, like so many of you, we had to diversify what we do and expand our suite of services. And so, next slide. We wanted to take the regional momentum that we already had and really ensure that this didn't get lost in this COVID world. So we funded and launched a $5 billion transportation package. We have huge assets in transportation that are being amplified for Hampton Roads. Traditionally, you've seen us sometimes referred to as a cul-de-sac, but we really want to be a gateway, and utilizing the Port of Virginia and the incredible infrastructure improvements that they've done and the dredging project to make sure that we're the deepest port for the next 50 years as well. And then we have these transatlantic cables coming into Virginia Beach. And so this is a huge opportunity for us to join the sort of cloud of Virginia. 70% of internet traffic in the world goes through Virginia every day. Traditionally, that has been through Northern Virginia. And Hampton Roads now has the opportunity to have these cables coming in from Europe that are laid by Google, Facebook, Microsoft, Telefonica. And we have become a data center hub now as a result of those cables. And so we want to take advantage of all of that. And then Nancy mentioned the Hampton Roads Maritime Collaborative. And so that is really also sort of playing to our core strengths rather than you often hear people say, you know, we have to diversify beyond maritime. Maritime is the heart of Hampton Roads in many ways. And we also want to strengthen and grow that across industries. And next slide. So one of the other things that we added is this 757 recovery initiative. And essentially, if you can go to the next slide as well, we teamed up with our colleagues and partners at other regional organizations and attempted to create a one-stop shop for resources and for expert opinions on how to deal with this COVID crisis. None of our colleagues or partners are more important than ODU. They have been a tremendous partner in this. So many of the students have been engaged on this, and I'll speak to that a little bit more in a moment, as well as professors in the School of Business that have helped us with a variety of webinars and things like that, trying to help guide our business community through this. And then our great partners at the workforce boards, the chambers, Reinvent Hampton Roads, and Civic have also been incredibly engaged on this, which is essentially a website. So if you can go to the next slide. It is 757recovery.com. We would love it if you would go visit this site if you haven't already. And to date, we have had 8,000 visitors and 17,000 page views on this site. And basically what it is it's a blog from experts that will tell you how they believe you should, as a business, survive and thrive during this COVID recovery. You can go to the next slide. We also took an extensive survey of the business community to find out how they were dealing with COVID. We asked a variety of questions, including, you know, how much has this impacted your business? Do you anticipate it being a short-term impact, a long-term impact? And that has kind of helped us shape the future of these recovery efforts in a few ways, which is on the next slide. So we essentially wanted to share the story of what our business community shared with us through these surveys. We also wanted to advance and provide information to the two chambers, which have some wonderful resources on their pages on how to recover and to potentially get grants and all these things that we've all seen coming out of the federal government and the state of Virginia through this time. We also have hosted a series of informational calls with elected officials, the senators for Virginia, Kane and Warner, several of the local Congress people, to tell them, you know, what our community is going through and to help them take that story to Washington and to Richmond as we're hopeful to get assistance to get through this and move back to our traditional economic growth rate. And then it has really kind of helped us to make 757 recovery more visible. We got notes from the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce that a significant portion of our audience are Spanish speaking. And so we went through and made it available in multiple languages. And then we also packaged and collectively shared a lot of these concerns as one voice. I think Jillian mentioned this earlier, but you often hear people say Hampton Roads doesn't get along and they don't collaborate. that story is false, it's an old narrative. And so we spoke with the backing of multiple mayors and multiple business leaders, and were able to sort of write unified letters asking the governor and the state assembly for certain action items to help us move forward. And next slide. And then a variety of our partners and our experts from throughout the community have shared their wisdom and experience with us on this blog, 757recovery.com, and we'd love it if you would go visit and read through some of these opinions. They've been tremendously helpful. And they also go live on the forum part for a Q&A that you can go in and ask your questions and get them answered by a variety of industry experts. It's traditionally Fridays at 1 p.m., so we invite you to join those anytime. But we've heard from the Hampton Roads Workforce Council, from Huntington Ingalls, from the Airport Authority. I think a lot of people are very curious about, you know, how's the airport surviving during this period? And they did a wonderful Q&A with us last week that I invite you to go check out. We've heard from banks, from law firms, from the Small Business Development Center, and from nonprofits, which are also suffering and looking for assistance. So there's a lot of good information on there that I certainly recommend that you take a read through, and please, you know, join us and ask your questions as well. Next slide. And that really led to what is the next step of this whole process, which is the 757 recovery framework. And so the goal of this essentially is to engage the community on taking ownership of our economic future. And we want to ensure that everybody can recover and thrive in this post-COVID environment. And that includes applying a diverse and an equitable and an inclusive lens to the framework's goals, bringing in additional voices from different parts of the community, different target sectors, different places that may have not been heard from in these previous surveys and things like that. We want this to be a wide-ranging, very in-depth conversation among our community members. And we want to articulate with one voice what we want for this post-COVID economy. And we think that we can essentially take this honestly and become stronger together out of it. We don't want to be one of those communities that just survives this. We do want to be a national leader that moves through this very quickly and is someone that you look up to as a group that didn't just sort of let this happen to us, that we proactively planned to get out of it. And next slide. And so we've created these 10 committees that are chaired by some of the best business leaders and best business minds in Hampton Roads. We've been really grateful for their involvement and experience. And so over the next about 6 weeks, these people will meet with their committees. We also have a next generation vice chair. I think in the chat room, there was a question about how are we engaging millennials and Gen Z. And this is one way we're doing it, is every committee has an under 40 vice chair on their panel, and that person will be given an equal voice and equal footing to explain maybe how they want to see Hampton Roads recover and survive and thrive through the next several decades. And so we think that that voice is very important to be right at the table in a leadership role. And so as you can see, this is not just our 5 industries. This goes from wellness and healthcare to small business and retail, all the way to science and technology. You know, having Jefferson Lab and obviously ODU playing a huge role here as well. And so we also have an ODU intern on each one of these committees. And I think it's a really cool opportunity for the students to engage with industry leaders. And it's a tremendous help to us because we can really work with them very closely to write white papers on what these committees actually come up with for recommendations.
And Steve, we've had several questions about diversification of the economy. So certainly this framework, I think, speaks to that, that's part of the rationale behind it, is to look at that aspect as well.
Absolutely, yeah. And so it's diversification of the economy as far as industry and as far as inclusivity, and making sure that there are more voices and more people from different backgrounds that can be represented on these different committees and in the future of our economic recovery. The next slide, please. And so then really moving forward, this is something that we're going to tackle through the beginning of October, when we will have a fully implemented plan that we will then have metrics associated with each of these deliverables that the committees will come up with. And we will share this with the community and invite feedback from the community at large. And then really go out there and have a proactive way to deal with this economic recession that we're going through no fault of our own. And so the hope is that we will become a proactive business community, a proactive Hampton Roads in a way that perhaps other regions haven't been and that we haven't been previously. And we think this is a really great way to sort of set the table for a new future. And then I'll just quickly conclude with the fact that, you know, even in bad times, a lot of times you might be surprised that there are still a lot of good news items. And so we actually have had 5 announcements already in the year 2020 from these companies that you'll see right here. We thank all of you for buying your goods and services from Amazon, because they must have a lot of customers in 757, because they're investing $250 million in creating 1,500 new jobs in Chesapeake and Suffolk. But we have some wonderful companies that you can see here as well. And just in the next slide, I mentioned that we had created goals for job creation and capital investment over the next 10 years pre-COVID. We actually have already hit our goal this year. And so I think you would not expect to hit your goal in 2020. But I'm thrilled to say that we have. And so that just means that we are actually still on track to get to 13th place as a region. And so we are very thankful for the efforts of our community and hopeful that we will emerge stronger together.
Great. Well, thank you, Steve. I realize we have covered quite a lot of territory, but it's for hopefully a good purpose, and certainly because there's so much exciting momentum happening in our region, and also through the leadership of this great organization, the Alliance. Maybe one final question I would ask of the group, you know, what call to action, and this, we could open it up to any one of the panelists, what call to action would you have for those of us on the webinar today? What should we do? Where should we go? How should we help? What would be a couple of quick bullets for us?
Well, I will say one of the first things you can do is follow us on social media. That's where you'll see, that's what we use, especially in COVID right now. We are not able to do in-person events. If we have information to share, or if we need your feedback on something, it's going to be put out through our social media. So that's a quick one you can do. Any other comments?
Agreed. And
broadly speaking, something that we've contemplated a lot is that economic development is really a relationship-driven industry, and we've done a lot of meetings via Zoom, and I think it's very effective. You know, thank God it's 2020 and not 2000, right? We wouldn't have the opportunities we have. But I think that the person that really cracks social networking and relationship building in an internet platform is going to be a big winner. And I think that that's something that would help us a lot in economic development and really in every industry. So, you know, as you see any of those technologies, or you're an entrepreneur and that's something that you're in that space, you know, I think that's something that would really benefit the world as a whole.
Yeah, that's right. All you entrepreneurs out there, we're here to help you do that. That's exactly right. You got a test bed right here. So maybe to conclude the panel, thanks everybody. It's really been very instructive, and I have learned a lot myself, even though we're one of the partners. There's just so much happening real time. We have one concluding poll question that we'd like to put out to the group, which is, now that you've heard all this information, what industry in Hampton Roads do you feel has the most potential for growth? So this is just a little bit of a interesting picture for us. So let's take a moment, and then we will announce our prize winners.
So it looks like so far we are information technology is leading.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. And then behind that one would be distribution and logistics. And we actually have other as a very high category. So we have a lot of people out there that think there is another industry that has a lot of growth potential.
So you'll have to set up a new committee in the framework called Other.
Right. All right.
Excellent.
So,
information technology. Look at this. Distribution and logistics. Aerospace. This is great. This is great data.
mm-hmm.
So I just want to thank everybody for attending. We've had great attendance during this program, and I clearly want to thank our speakers. I think you'll agree with me that this has just been extremely informative. And I am thrilled to announce we have 3 winners of the raffle prizes. You can get with Kim about how you can actually fulfill that. But the 3 people are, and hopefully I will pronounce these names correctly. It will be Joe Blanchard, Nick Fuchs, and Peter Griffin.
Yay. I will email those winners and get with you to get your prize to you. So thank you for logging in.
And thanks to everybody today. Again, congratulations to the Alliance for all the great work you're doing. And thank you to the ODU Alumni Organization. We appreciate all of your engagement, and you know, it's really cool, you know, always from ODU, and it's really, I hope, exciting for you to see how your alma mater is involved in the region and growth of the Commonwealth. So I hope everybody has a great rest of day. Stay well, stay safe, and take care.
Bye. Thank you.